This man, Anatol Sharansky, is an international symbol of resistance against Russian oppression of its dissidents. And on this week's Jack Anderson Confidential, Mrs. Sharansky speaks eloquently of her husband's refusal to bend under Kremlin tyranny, even though he's serving 30 years in prison.
He's not afraid. He's a very happy person, very free.
All this and more on this week's Jack Anderson Confidential. During the next 30 minutes, this lady will tell you how she and other ladies were supplied by defense contractors as traveling companions to Navy officials, and of her bitter effort to obtain justice in an American courtroom.
When I was in open court, I was stripped through the marrow of my bone. I felt that I was raped in the courtroom and that there was no justice there.
You'll meet the black mayor of a small Mississippi town who claims he was framed by white racists on a false charge of murder.
The basic reason is that I refuse to become their little boy. I refuse to carry out their orders.
And you'll learn how the chief financial watchdog over wasteful government spending perhaps needs a watchdog of his own because of his frivolous spending of government monies for his own personal comfort. These stories coming up next on Jack Anderson Confidential. Now from Washington, here is Jack Anderson.
Today I intend to name a congressman who's allegedly involved with the drug ring. He has a national name. Most Americans will recognize it. First, here's the background. 18 months ago, I learned that a drug ring was operating on Capitol Hill. My associates, Indy Badwar and Jack Mitchell, learned about cocaine sales in the halls of Congress. We turned our information over to undercover narcotics agents. We also arranged a congressional cover for them. This permitted them to infiltrate the drug ring. Well, many months later, 3 of the ringleaders were busted. $250,000 worth of coke was seized. Now, the ringleaders named some of their customers, including several congressmen. I know their names, of course, but I've been reluctant to reveal them without solid evidence. Well, now I can report that one congressman was secretly taped by federal investigators. He can be heard discussing narcotics with a drug ring insider. My sources say the cooperative witness has been placed in the Justice Department's Witness Protection Program. The congressman didn't know, of course, that his damaging remarks were being recorded. There's other evidence against him. Now, the name of this congressman is Barry Goldwater, Jr. He won't be in Congress next year. He ran for the Senate in California and lost. The rumors about his drug habits have been circulating for some time on Capitol Hill. I've tried repeatedly to get Goldwater's comments, but he's refused all attempts to interview him. This investigation is sad news, in particular, for his distinguished father. But those who pass the drug laws should be expected to obey them. When I return, a report on a sex scandal in the Pentagon.
I'm here on behalf of International Christian Aid to ask your support for a major relief effort in Lebanon. Putting all politics aside, most would agree we must now turn our attention toward helping the homeless and needy, and especially the children. Children like this young boy who suffered severe burns. He was found and helped by International Christian Aid, a world relief agency that is already at work providing emergency relief in Lebanon. Thousands of these innocent little ones desperately need your help and mine. This toll-free number on your screen is a way for you to help them. Your gift, in any amount, will be used by International Christian Aid to provide food, clothing, tents, blankets, yes, and emergency medical supplies and assistance. The need is urgent. Will you help? Go to your phone right now and call our toll-free number. We'll do the rest. Together, we can help children in Lebanon who need to know that you and I care.
The fine art of gaining defense contracts depends as much on political influence as professional competence. Sometimes the way to a contract is greased by favors and gifts, occasionally by liquor and sex. But now I've discovered a sex ring operating inside the Pentagon itself, right under the nose of the Navy. The women involved aren't just party girls. Some are businesswomen who have been coerced into participating by Navy contractors. The women are known in the back rooms of the Navy as Billy's girls. Who's Billy? He's Billy Love. That's his real name, Billy Love. He's the financial manager for the Navy's Aegis program, a multi-billion-dollar shipbuilding program. The contractors hired women who were then assigned to work directly in Billy Love's office.
And they told me that Billy Love would have to see me first before I could be hired.
Pamela O'Brien, a proud Irish woman who refused to become one of Billy's girls.
And I first met with a task manager who told me that I would be a shoo-in because Billy would love those eyes. Then Billy Love came in and he explained the Aegis shipbuilding project and the Spy 1 radar, and he started drawing on the board, sucking on his pipe and smirking and winking at me. He asked me finally whether I was single or married and could I travel. And I told him that I was single and yes, I could travel.
Pamela accompanied Billy Love on several trips with other women.
Usually we'd go to breakfast around 8, and then we'd go to RCA Corporation, go to a contract review for a couple hours, then to lunch for 2 to 3 hours.
Who with?
With RCA contractors.
Drinking?
Oh, yes. And then we'd come back, continue the review, and about 4 o'clock we'd head over to a local bar, freshen up, go to dinner, and then go bar hopping till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Pamela's story is backed by affidavits from other women who had similar experiences. Additional evidence was uncovered in Pentagon documents and court papers. This statement was taken from Michael Bowers, a supervisor who worked with Billy Love. He tells how one of Billy's traveling companions accompanied him to California and won a wet T-shirt contest. She entered the contest at Billy's insistence. She was traveling on government business at the time. Pamela O'Brien told my associate Indy Badwar what happened when she refused to go alone with him.
I was asked by Billy Love to come into his office and shut the door. And he asked me to go on a trip alone with him, and I could plan the entire agenda, but I told him I wouldn't be able to go. Well, he grabbed my hands, actually my wrists, and he told me that this would be my last opportunity, and I would regret it if I didn't go. And then the next day, I found out in the ladies' restroom from a clerical secretary that she was my replacement, and I would no longer be working for Billy Love. Then I found out that she was indeed my replacement. She was a double for Dolly Parton, and later she went out and won the wet T-shirt contest in California.
Of course, a sex scandal would embarrass the Navy, so the Navy covered up, and Pamela lost her livelihood. Well, she fought back in the courts. The Navy tried to buy her silence by offering her $30,000, but she turned down the deal.
Because they were asking me to tell a lie, and here I was just telling the truth.
Haven't you ever told a lie in your life before?
For sure. But they were asking me to say that everything that happened in 2 years was total lie. My whole life, my total experience was a lie, and I couldn't do it.
Pamela's superiors claimed she was fired because she couldn't do her job. But these documents show that before she complained of sexual coercion, she was rated an excellent employee and was recommended for a salary increase.
I found her to be an intelligent, cooperative, capable young woman.
Notification of special merit salary increase. Effective 1 September 1979, your salary is increased.
The Navy wanted to cover up the sex scandal. No one from the Navy would agree to be interviewed. Billy Love's attorneys wouldn't even give me a statement. Their client was stonewalling interviewers from his office, which is inside the Navy security area. My associate Indy Badwar took a camera crew up a backstairs entrance. He brought Pamela along so she could confront Billy.
Hi, you doing that? This is Indy Badwar. Can we talk?
The Navy's Inspector General went through the motions of investigating Billy Love. It was, of course, a whitewash. The Inspector General found Love guilty of merely administrative excesses and promised appropriate discipline. How was he disciplined? He was asked to attend a sexual harassment seminar. I found an ally on Capitol Hill. She's Colorado Congresswoman Pat Schroeder. She's been actively pursuing Pamela O'Brien's charges.
How would you characterize this particular investigation by the Inspector General?
Well, looks like the other ones I've seen where they really see their role as trying to have the agency come out with as good a record as possible, rather than really looking to see if there's any merit to the allegations. And so they come out really trying to de-minimize the allegations and protect the guys in power. It's the old boy network at work. The tragedy in all these cases is that when people have the guts to stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right, the textbook, novels, everything says they win. The unfortunate pattern that I've seen has been they lose. That the entire government and everything else goes to work to try and protect the perpetrator, and the victim becomes an even better victim, bigger victim.
Has Pamela O'Brien been defeated after her ordeal? Here's her parting shot at her Pentagon tormentors.
He got me terminated and fired from my job. But the fight is still going on. He didn't win my spirit.
What's so special about you? Why did you stand up and fight? Are you more moral, more courageous than the other women?
I don't think I'm more moral. I think it's a power struggle. I wasn't going to be told by the boss who to sleep with. There's a power struggle there.
What have you found about yourself?
That I'm a strong person, and that I can keep on going. In the midst of rejection, I was totally rejected and ostracized. I think I could face death.
Why?
Because I felt that many times during the course of the time that I was going through the trial, I was never in a trial, but when I was in open court, I was stripped through the marrow of my bone. I felt that I was raped in the courtroom and that there was no justice there.
I'm here on behalf of International Christian Aid to ask your support for a major relief effort in Lebanon. Putting all politics aside, most would agree we must now turn our attention toward helping the homeless and needy, and especially the children. Children like this young boy who suffered severe burns. He was found and helped by International Christian Aid, a world relief agency that is already at work providing emergency relief in Lebanon. Thousands of these innocent little ones desperately need your help and mine. This toll-free number on your screen is a way for you to help them. Your gift, in any amount, will be used by International Christian Aid to provide food, clothing, tents, blankets, yes, and emergency medical supplies and assistance. The need is urgent. Will you help? Go to your phone right now and call our toll-free number. We'll do the rest. Together, we can help children in Lebanon who need to know that you and I care.
There's a lot about the business world you can't learn in any textbook. You learn it here, the Wall Street Journal. Today's business, always current, always timely. Believe me, it's required reading.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal. Delivered every business day for 6 months for $47. Just 37 cents a day. Phone toll free 800-453-4806. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-453-4806 now.
Two weeks ago, I sent a camera crew to the sleepy Mississippi town of Chula. I wanted to throw a national spotlight on the murder trial of Eddie James Carthen. He was elected mayor of Chula in 1977, the first black man to challenge the town's white leadership. I'd been told he was innocent, that the charges against him had been rigged. And in Mississippi, the punishment for first-degree murder is the gas chamber. Carthen grew up in Chula, a small delta town where cotton is king and the Confederacy never died. 80% of the population is black, but the town is controlled by white business interests. Mechanization has come to the land of cotton. Unemployment has soared to 30%. Now that's 3 times higher than the national average. Half the population is on public assistance. Eddie Carthen told my associate Jerome Reed there was harmony on the town board when he was first elected. But then the conflicts arose.
I refused to become their little boy. I refused to carry out their orders. I refused to become their tool. And by running me out of office, forcing me out of office, by me being made an example of by the power structure, would discourage other blacks from participating in government.
John Edgar Hayes was the one white member of the town board when Carthen came to office. The two men frequently clashed.
Carthen is a man that didn't seem to want to sit down at a table and work out problems. It's hard to explain. If you were not in a meeting, you would not believe it, the things that took place in all of our meetings. I've never seen a man that twisted the truth, black, white, red, or green, as he can do. And I'm no racist.
Carthen tried to bring industry to Chula to provide jobs for unemployed blacks. He tried to start a daycare center, a clinic, and a library. But his reform attempts brought him nothing but trouble. His wife, Shirley, describes how she and her family were threatened by Hayes and by other members of the Chula establishment.
They've been calling our home and threatening us. And on 2 occasions, my husband had to call in friends and supporters to surround our home to keep them from coming to kill us.
Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hayes actually called the house, and you knew it was them?
Yes, they did. They identified themselves, and they talked to my husband. They had a lengthy discussion, and they informed my husband that they were coming to get him. They told him that we'll kill you and every nigger in Chula like you.
No, I never threatened a man in my life, and I never threatened him.
The threats didn't deter Carthen, so his adversaries got tougher. They brought criminal charges. In 1980, Carthen was convicted of assaulting a policeman. In 1981, he was convicted of filing false information on a bank loan application. Petty cases. But Carthen was sentenced to 3 years on both counts. He's now appealing. Then last April came the murder rap. Carthen was accused of hiring two hitmen, David Hester and Vincent Bolden, to kill a rival board member named Roosevelt Granderson. The district attorney made a deal with the hitmen in exchange for their testimony against the mayor. Carthen's attorney, John Walls, describes the deal offered to one of the hitmen, Vincent Bolden.
They recommended that he be given a life sentence on the simple murder. Further, they recommended that he would be allowed executive good time, so he would be eligible for parole in about from 5 to 7.5 years. Further, they said that he would be allowed the privilege of deciding whether he would spend his time either in a county jail or in the state penitentiary, and he would have the choice. So it amounted to one of the best sweetheart deals I've ever heard of, and it induced him to testify.
Walls says the mayor had nothing to do with Granderson's murder, that Granderson was killed by rival drug dealers. District Attorney Frank Carlton admitted that the dead man had been involved with cocaine.
Fact is that the witness Hester, when we interviewed him, told us that he had sold a quantity of cocaine to Roosevelt Granderson on an occasion prior to this, and that is in the record at this time, yes.
So then Mr. Granderson was involved in drug dealing?
Well, I don't know whether you consider that a drug deal or not. I don't know what the purpose of it was, frankly.
But the amount...
It was testimony damaging to our side, if you want to hear me say it. Yes, there's no question about that.
But the amount purchased was approximately $30,000 worth?
I believe that was the testimony, yes.
That's more than a person would use.
I'm not a drug user, so I can't testify about that, but I don't know. Yes, it sounded like a large sale to me. If you...
One who had the courage to speak out about this frame-up was Sister Beverly Widener, a Franciscan nun and community activist. Because Sister Beverly has taken a public stand in support of Carthen, she's been harassed. She says this is the reason that other whites hesitated to come forward.
Because they're afraid of what attack will come down on them if they do.
What kind of attacks have happened?
Well, for us, it's been things from starting with obscene language, then throwing of eggs, then putting of nails in our driveway every morning for like 2 months straight. And then it got into shooting in our house.
Last week, a jury in Holmes County, Mississippi, found the courage to uphold justice. They declared Eddie Carthen not guilty of murder. But the story isn't finished. Carthen's adversaries haven't given up. He's still languishing in jail on the earlier petty charges. You see, his appeal bond has been denied. When I return, I'd like you to meet the federal government's chief watchdog. I'd like you to meet the federal government's chief watchdog. His name is Charles Boucher. He heads the General Accounting Office. It's his job to hold down unnecessary government spending. He investigates government officials, for example, who abuse their travel privileges. Yet he likes to fly in comfort himself. He knows the loopholes in the law, and he's taken advantage of one loophole to fly first class. His travel vouchers show that he flew first class 23 times last year, while other government officials were relegated to the back of the plane. But on 6 of these trips, he arranged first-class passage for his aides, too. They flew in style to places like Honolulu, Ottawa, San Francisco, and San Diego. They justified going first class. It was necessary, they said, because of a rigorous working schedule. They went to Honolulu, they said, to work. They also contend that Boucher's luxury travel has cost only $10,000 extra this year. Now, if they check their figures closely, I think they'll find the cost was a bit higher. But that's not the issue. Should the man who investigates government extravagances commit extravagances himself? Meanwhile, Boucher's auditors are busy investigating another abuse. They're checking reports that a former Veterans Administration official has been flying first class. Next week, a special Thanksgiving show, including a poignant interview with the wife of a Soviet dissident.
He's not afraid. He's a very happy person, very free. And they can put them to prison, they can torture them, they can do what they want with him, but they can broken his spirit. And I think this is why they keep them. I just pray and I believe that physically he can stay through all these tortures.
I'm Jack Anderson in Washington.
Jack Anderson Confidential is a Jack Barry Dan Enright production in association with Able Communications.
I was totally rejected and ostracized. I think I could face death.
Why?
Because I felt that many times during the course of the time that I was going through the trial, I was never in a trial, but when I was in open court, I was stripped through the marrow of my bone. I felt that I was raped in the courtroom and that there was no justice there.
Promotional consideration provided by World Airways. From the West Coast to the East Coast, across the Atlantic to London and Frankfurt to Hawaii, fly World Airways, the airline for people who hate to waste money.